The gifts that they brought, which is the focus of our lesson, have always fascinated believers. We know at least three were laid at his feet. Well, whether laid at his feet per se, that's sort of a literary terminology. The first was gold. In verse 11 that David read a moment ago, as they came into this house, gold was laid there, a symbol of wealth, of kings, and of power even today. Jesus, as King of Kings, would be worthy of no less gift than gold. And certainly that's one of the reasons I think it's brought. Now, we've always wondered, and we'll be asking this in a minute, what may have happened to some of these gifts? We'll think about that. Frankincense. It is an incense, literally. It was a fragrant gum resin that can be ground to powder and liquefied. It was used in incense in the tabernacle. According to Leviticus 24:7, it was set before the Holy of Holies with the bread of the presence. Frankincense and oil were sometimes offered and added to cereal offerings. But it was forbidden for addition to sin offerings. Stores of it were kept in the temple. You know, just as the high priest would come in and there would be incense. You remember, Jesus is our high priest, is he not? Of the New Testament. So it makes sense that this would be one of the gifts that would be laid at his feet. Now, the third one is myrrh. What is myrrh? Well, it's most likely the resin of the Commiphora myrrha plant. This is a picture of what it looks like when it's growing wild, found mostly in Saudi Arabia. And again, that gives a little bit of evidence, well, were these people from Saudi Arabia? Again, it was widespread, though, so that doesn't tell us anything. It was prized in Egypt for embalming, for perfumes, believe it or not, for beauty treatments. And now, how many of you would use something for embalming for beauty treatments? Probably not very many of you, but they did. And for scenting clothing. Jesus was offered wine mixed with myrrh at his crucifixion, according to Matthew 15:23. And of course, it was brought for his burial, as we find in John 19:39. So again, another appropriate gift, which he may have been able to use in the future. Now, people have noticed that there are some rather interesting verses in Isaiah 60 that show that other gifts might have been available. Some see Isaiah 63 as the idea of kings for the Magi. And the Gentiles shall come to the light of thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Well, if indeed that is a messianic verse, it could be that these people that are brought to him, to his light, might have been kings. It's possible. Or it could have been a generic way of saying that all the earth's kings will simply bow down to Christ. It may not be referring to that at all, of their coming. Is verse 9 messianic? Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from afar, their silver and gold with them. I see that as more of a general verse of showing God's blessings upon the nation of Israel. As you start out that chapter about arise, and let the light shine, it's really more of a way of perking up Israel to the fact that something good is going to happen to them, that God is going to bless them. Verse 17 is intriguing of that chapter. For brass I will bring gold, for iron I will bring silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron. Again, probably a Hebrew way of speaking. I doubt that this particular verse is necessarily talking about the Magi. But as you read the chapter, it's very interesting, and it very well could be in some way implying that the Magi were involved. Now, what happened to these gifts? Do you know? Well, pessimists say, well, they're eaten up by taxes. If in our day we were given gold and frankincense and myrrh, we'd probably have to pay 40% of it for taxes, wouldn't we? Especially if you go on a game show in New York. Maybe 70% of it's taxed. But not necessarily in that day and age. Judas, we know, carried a money purse. He stole out of it, according to the scriptures. Perhaps it helped to pay for food and lodging during Jesus' 3-year ministry. Some of the women came around and followed Jesus, and maybe they helped too. Maybe some of the money that Mary and Joseph had was put in the purse of Judas, and they used that for paying for different things. We don't know. Perhaps some of it was used by Joseph and Mary for personal expenses, maybe for their health. There is some tradition that Joseph died, before Jesus got to his ministry, but again, we don't know that for sure. And perhaps the myrrh was saved for his burial. Remember, the New Testament says nothing about how much of each item was given by the Magi. It implies other items. And when they had opened their treasures, Matthew 2:11, that could imply many other items. How much of that they gave to Jesus, We don't know, but they certainly gave at least these three items. Now, as we end this lesson, I want to remind you that it is an oft-quoted billboard saying, but I think it's a good one. Wise men still seek Jesus. What about you? Have you sought him in your life? Is Jesus part of your personal life? Have you given your life to Jesus? Have you been baptized for remission of sins? Have you wandered away and not been so wise at times? And you need to come back to Jesus? You need to come back to the one who is the sustainer of all life, who is the author and perfecter of our faith according to the Scriptures? If so, we offer this opportunity right now. Won't you come while we stand and while we sing?
What will you do with Jesus? The question comes to you, and you must give an answer.